Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Matthew Varga here. In today's video, we're going to talk about Airbnb arbitrage, otherwise known as rental arbitrage. We'll go over some of the pros and cons. We'll talk about how exactly we make money off of this strategy. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that this year we started investing in Airbnb. Now, typically when someone thinks of investing in Airbnb, they normally think, oh, you buy a home, you turn around, you list it on Airbnb, and now you're investing in Airbnb. But we've decided to do it a different way, and that's doing what's called Airbnb arbitrage. Airbnb arbitrage is when instead of you owning the property and putting it up on Airbnb, you actually find someone else who has a property that they're looking to rent to a long-term tenant. You go in and you rent that property from them, and then with their permission, you turn around and you outfit it, get it ready, and list it on Airbnb. So after all of your expenses are paid to that landlord, rent, utilities, anything else, your profit is the difference between what you're paying him to have that property and what you're making off of Airbnb from your nightly, weekend, daily listings. So here's an example of a property that we're currently doing this with. So we rented a house from someone that has 2 apartments, an upstairs and a downstairs, and we negotiated a rent with the landlord for $3,700. So after all of our expenses, it's costing us about $4,050 a month. And with our listing on Airbnb, we're bringing in from those 2 units over $5,700 a month. So in that case, we're actually bringing in a cash flow. Our profit is $1,700 a month for that one property. So as you can see, this can definitely make a huge impact on your cash flow by having a couple of these properties set up that way. So let's go over exactly what the main benefits of this strategy are. Well, first off, you have much lower upfront costs to get set up. So instead of having to save a big down payment to purchase a home, your startup costs for this strategy is you need to have your first month's rent, last month's rent or security deposit, any legal fees or lease fees that you might have, and then the furniture to get the property outfitted and all set up. It's definitely much lower than getting a house that you're purchasing, for yourself to set up on Airbnb. The second main benefit is that you get increased cash flow. So as I showed in that example earlier, with this one property, we're bringing in $1,700 a month cash flow by using this strategy. If we were doing more of a long-term rental, we'd probably be making maybe $300 to $500 if we're lucky on that strategy. So you can definitely make a lot more off each Airbnb arbitrage, mostly due to your lower upfront cost, but it's definitely a great benefit to this investment strategy. The third main benefit is that it's pretty flexible. And by that I mean, if you set up an Airbnb arbitrage and maybe it's just not generating the returns that you like, it's not that hard to close that one down, end the lease with that landlord, take that furniture that you have and move that over and set up a new property in a new area that's maybe gonna do better. Obviously, if you own the property, you can't do that. You'd have to turn around, sell it. You got realtor fees and all this. So it's definitely a lot more flexible in that regard, that you can move and flow with things depending on market demand. And the final benefit to this is that you can grow your portfolio quickly. So obviously, because your upfront cost is a lot lower, depending on how much funds you have, you can definitely use it to set up maybe 2 or 3 of these properties before you could even have a down payment for one. And because the cash flow is so strong, if you're saving up that monthly cash flow, you can set up another property after a few months of banking that cash flow and then just keep doing that and snowball and really grow your portfolio very quickly with this strategy. Okay, so let's go over some of the most common questions that we get asked about Airbnb arbitrage. Hopefully this will answer any of the questions that might have popped up into your head while watching this video. So one of the first ones that we get asked a lot is this legal? And the answer is yes, this is 100% legal as long as the area that you're doing this in allows for short-term rentals. So obviously you need to check with the city and make sure that that area will allow for short-term rentals. Also, if it's in a condo, let's just say, you have to make sure that the condo board allows for short-term rentals, because some don't. They'll only allow a year lease minimum. And then also you have to make sure that you have the landlord's permission to do this. So obviously you're not gonna just rent it and then turn around and do this behind their back, but as long as the city is okay with short-term rental and the owner of that property is okay with you doing this strategy, it's 100% legal. The next question that we get asked a lot is, how much does this cost to get set up? So as I mentioned earlier, the upfront costs are definitely a lot lower for this type of strategy. As I said before, you have your first month's rent, security deposit, legal fees, all your furnishing and all that. That's like your main output for getting one of these properties set up. So depending on the property, like where you are, how much that monthly rent is, and if you're doing more of a luxury type property, you could be anywhere between $5,000 to get this set up to $25,000, $50,000 if you're doing a bigger house. There's people out there who do this strategy with big mansions in Los Angeles, believe it or not. So obviously your upfront cost is going to be a little bit higher to get something like that set up, but a normal condo or house in a good area, you can definitely outfit something like this for $5,000, $6,000, depending on how creative you get as well with how you get the furniture. That's going to save you some money as well. So one of the big questions we get asked a lot is, why would a landlord rent their house to you so you can turn around and put it on Airbnb? It's a great question. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to the owner of a property for renting to us for this strategy as opposed to renting to just a long-term tenant. So obviously they're going to get great monthly rent. So it's not like we're trying to cut costs for them on the rent. So they're getting that same great market rent that they were looking for with a long-term tenant. Next, they're renting to a professional business that has a long-term track record. So I know with landlords, one of the main concerns that they have is that they rent to a professional tenant who turns around, lives in the house, doesn't pay rent, skips out on the bill, and they're covering the cost for that while that professional tenant's in there. Obviously, renting to a professional business, they don't have to worry about that, so that's a huge load off their mind. Next, they get reduced monthly expenses. So typically when you own a property, you have to account for property management, which is usually about 10% of your rent. So usually, let's just say that could be $200-$300 a month that they're having to pay someone to manage the property for them. Well, when they're renting to us, because we're a professional business and we're managing it for them, this is an expense that they don't have to pay. So they're not paying us to manage the property. That's just part of our business model. We're managing it because it's on Airbnb and we have to do that. So that $200 to $300 that they would have paid a management company to manage their property, they just get to keep that, put it in their pocket. So that's a huge benefit for them. The next benefit is that we take care of all the repairs and maintenance on the property. So because we need to keep the property up to like a high level of standard, so we get good reviews and we keep getting guests coming in. After every guest leaves, we do a thorough inspection to see if there's any damage or anything that person may have caused. And if so, we turn around and we charge it back to that person to cover that expense. So that's something that the landlord doesn't have to worry about as well, which typically, once again, if you're owning a long-term rental, normally you have to set aside 8%, 10% a month for repairs that you're eventually going to have, wear and tear. So that's another expense that they get to save on because it's covered by us. So that's more money in that person's pocket. On top of that, they also get professional cleaning. So after each guest leaves, we have cleaners come in, clean it top to bottom, inspect everything, make sure that everything's in like pristine condition, which is a great benefit for the owner as well. And then finally, one of the other benefits is just the added additional insurance that they have. So, as the owner of a property, you're going to have your house insurance, but then we would also have renter insurance covering that property. And then on top of that, Airbnb also has $1 million policy for all of their rentals that they have up on their site. So basically you're getting all this additional insurance to give you peace of mind at night so that your property is protected. And the final question that we get asked a lot by people is, can I rent my home to you? And the answer is yes. We're actually actively taking on properties still. So if you or anyone has a property or a portfolio of properties that maybe this sounds like a good strategy that you would like to take advantage of, you can reach out to me on this email here. I'll link it down below as well. Or you can just DM me on Instagram. I'll put the handle here. So reach out if this sounds like something that might interest you and we can have a deeper discussion about that. So there you have it. That is Airbnb arbitrage in a nutshell. I hope after watching this video, you get a deeper understanding of Airbnb arbitrage and you can see how maybe this could work for you and fit into your portfolio. If you want to learn more about Airbnb arbitrage, I have a free guide you can download. I'll link that down below. As you can see, there's a ton of potential using this strategy. Once you get your first property set up, you start learning the ins and outs of this business. Then you can start to automate a lot of things. You can outsource a lot of the work involved, and you can really turn this active business into a nice passive stream of income. So I really hope you liked today's video. Make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Share it with a friend or a family member. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to answer them there. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you next week.